Hello and welcome to those of you joining us on Lincolnshire Reporter. My name is Stefan Pidlujny, and with me for the fifth in our series of live Facebook chats with the candidates standing in the Sleaford North Hycombe by-election is the independent Sarah Starr. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Stefan.
Now obviously you're an independent, but some people, quite a few people, probably know you better as a campaigner fighting for the reopening of Grantham A&E.
Yes.
Why then are you standing in Sleaford North Hycombe?
Well, what started as the Fighting for Grantham campaign has sort of escalated into a bigger opportunity. I basically joined the campaign after my own cancer operation and felt the need to stand up and have my voice heard along with the people of this county.
Can you tell us a little bit more about sort of why you joined and sort of you touched on it a little bit there, your own experiences?
Yeah, on 22nd of August, which was about 5 days after the A&E was closed overnight at Grantham, I actually had to go in for radical mastectomy for breast cancer, which was quite extensive surgery. I was discharged from the hospital on the 23rd, which was about 23 hours post-operatively with 4 breast drains. I'd been following the campaign actually from my hospital bed. And was quite concerned to see that the A&E was actually closed overnight, bearing in mind I was actually being discharged, and the concern for post-operative complications scared me. And when I got back to my partner's house in Grantham with my 3 children, I was astounded to have this feeling of fear, you know, from a nurse perspective and a patient perspective. I'm normally quite professional and calm, and you know, I was in pain as well, which didn't help. And it scared me, and I actually looked at other people around the Grantham area, and obviously Sleaford and North Hycombe come into that constituency area. And I was scared for them, I was scared for their children, I was scared for the elderly that can't get to the hospitals. And when I got back and thought, if I have any post-operative complications and need the A&E overnight, that I've got nowhere to go. I would have had to travel back to Nottingham. I was already in pain, and it concerned me. So from that day, you know, having nothing better to do with my time other than get well again, I followed the campaign avidly, and 7 weeks post-operatively took a group of campaigners down to London to fight the corner and be heard in the House of Commons with Nick Bold.
So you're obviously very passionate about it.
Absolutely.
There's one thing sort of obviously being a campaigner, which you've been now. There's another thing standing to become an MP as well. What motivated you to go sort of one step further?
In terms of the Fighting for Grantham group campaign, what we've found is we've opened up a can of worms. What started as what we thought was a local issue with the A&E being closed because of an apparent shortage of doctors has escalated into realising that it's actually a national initiative to close accident, emergency and maternity services down. It's been a government initiative since 2010, and Grantham and Boston are both hospitals that are on a hit list. From a 2010 initiative, there were 66 hospitals on that list, which we discovered during the campaign. And that has opened my eyes to the bigger problem that the government is pushing to local areas.
Sounds like you're not a fan of the government then.
I'm certainly not. I mean, for 20 years I've actually sat quietly. I've been a nurse for 28 years, and for 20 of those years I've actually sat quietly, albeit screaming at the television when I see decisions being made that don't really help the public. And I've done nothing about it. I've been very similar to probably a lot of people in the country, where a level of apathy sets in and we think that we can't change things. And I've literally woken up from this anaesthetic with an anger and a passion that now, I think that fear of death possibly has given me the gumption to really stand up and say, this isn't working. You know, policies that are made in London don't work in Lincolnshire. They're not, you know, they're not working. And we need a different rural strategy for hospitals, we need a different rural strategy for our whole infrastructure in terms of transport links, emergency support services, and all I see from the government is money being pulled out left, right and centre, and we're being left with nothing.
So how could you challenge it then if you were elected as an MP?
An independent candidate came up to see me yesterday. Dr Richard Taylor won the Kidderminster election in 2001 and went on to be an MP till 2010. And he came up to support my campaign yesterday with a couple of other influential previous politicians who just have inspired me further to push this campaign forward and to get the voice of the people out there. He was also a member of a lot of health scrutiny committees in Parliament. And his comments to me yesterday were that one vote can make all the difference in setting policies. And I wouldn't just be one voice, I would be taking the voice of the people of Lincolnshire back with me and getting them heard in Parliament.
You sort of mentioned that you're not that big a fan of the government over health. Who do you think is to blame for the situation at Grantham Inn?
It's a combination of events. Like I say, there was this national directive in 2010 and 66 hospitals were on a hit list for closure then. Over half of those have already closed or been downgraded. In 2012 we saw the Health and Social Care Act come into play, which seemed to split the NHS into different areas, which left accountability questionable.
So you'd look to be trying to reverse that?
It certainly needs looking at, yes, definitely. And the management, the ULHT, United Lincolnshire Health Trust Board, certainly need to be taken into account for the decisions they've made recently.
What could they have done differently?
They could have started employing doctors sooner than they did in July.
It's not easy though, is it? So a lot of they have been trying to recruit doctors.
They were 17 doctors short in July when 2 left, and apparently they hit a crisis in July. They hit a crisis 2 years ago, but had not been actively recruiting during that time, which just is not acceptable. It's almost like they've been pushing towards closure of Grantham Hospital for many years. We had to fight to keep it open 10 years ago. And people say to me, but the impact on Sleaford and North Hykeham, because obviously we're talking about the by-election, apparently the impact isn't affecting Sleaford and North Hykeham. Well, it will do, and it is doing.
Can you explain sort of why it does?
Because we've only got the 3 hospitals really surrounding Sleaford and North Hykeham. We've got Lincoln, Boston and Grantham hospitals. Now the impact on the waiting times at A&E at Lincoln are becoming, unmanageable. We have got obviously Nottingham Hospital and Peterborough Hospital, but once you start looking at the bigger picture of what the government are trying to push forward and to drive forward, Boston is also on the hit list for downgrading of their A&E services. And that's been well known and well publicised by the SOS team over at Boston. Now once you lose those 2 vital services in terms of Grantham and Boston, and Lincoln is made this super hub, we're still struggling with the rural area. We've got rural link roads, we've got minimal amount of funding going into the ambulance service. Police Commissioner is doing his nut because the police are taking patients into hospital, which is not their job. That's not what they're there for.
I'm glad you mentioned a few other issues there as well, because obviously it's not a by-election on the about the referendum on Grantham A&E. There are obviously quite a few other really important issues which I'm sure have come up on the doorstep. What have people been saying to you?
Like I say, the transport links are a major concern.
So which ones in particular?
The state of our rural roads. We've just had £3 million thrown into the kitty very kindly by the Transport Minister, possibly on the back of the by-election, which is very kind.
So you think that was politically motivated?
I think so, yes. And obviously, we're looking at a long-term plan. We've just had the announcement of the £50 million for the Eastern Bypass, which is lovely. That was already in the throes of happening, and if this by-election has pushed that forward a little bit more quickly, that's great. Still a little bit astounded that it's only a single access carriageway, which is slightly concerning because I can see that we've got bottlenecks, and I know a lot of people have worked very hard towards
What about some of the roads in sort of Sleaford and North Hykeham in particular? What roads there need sort of major upgrades, do you think?
I think, to be honest, the whole of the county needs looking at in terms of its transport links and infrastructure. There's a lot more money that needs spending in the rural county, and I think this is what's being missed in London. I heard Victoria Ailing refer to it as breadcrumbs, and I would like to, a little bit like Victoria Ailing, I would like to see more than breadcrumbs being thrown at Lincolnshire. The Lincolnshire area seems to have been forgotten until recently, where we've seen a lot of very illustrious MPs and the elite establishment up over the last couple of weeks. And it would be nice to see that continue. I do feel that Lincolnshire has been, afforded very little in terms of attention and funding, and we seem to be scratching around trying to move budgets around, and I think we need to be taking the voice back to Parliament to say we need more. I'm not demanding the world, but I think we need to see more rural strategy.
Where does all the money for this come from, though?
The government have got money. you know, there is a way to transfer that money around, and I just feel that rural counties get a rough deal, and it's not acceptable.
Okay. In terms of policing, you've touched on that as well. Would you like to see more bobbies on the beat?
I would like to see more ambulance. I'd like to see more police staff. I'd like to see...
How many more roughly?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't like to hazard a guess at the figures, but I just have seen over the years, like I say, over the past 2 decades, money being pulled out. We don't seem to have the training put back into place to sort of encourage people into these professions anymore. And it seems to be a tactic by the government to try and save money. And ultimately, in the long run, I can't see how it can save money. So
central government needs to spend more money on that as well, in addition to the roads as well?
In terms of training, yes.
Yeah.
For long-term gain, I think, you know, it's extremely important. Nursing as well. You know, they've removed a lot of the nursing training, and doctors. We were talking about doctors a second ago. We used to have fantastic links with doctors coming over and doing their training within Boston and Pilgrim hospitals. I met so many medical students back in my day who enjoyed their training in the rural counties and would have worked in the rural counties. We keep getting told that doctors don't want to move to Lincolnshire, that Lincolnshire's got nothing to offer. We've got a great deal to offer, and there is talk of ULHT, United Lincolnshire Health Trust Board, liaising with the Lincoln University to actually set that up again, which is a positive thing. You know, I think that's fantastic. They should be looking at that as an option. Because people, if they train in the area, they get to know the area. We have links with the Air Force. You know, a lot of Air Force families come back to Lincolnshire to live here and bring their families up.
So something like a medical school or something along those lines?
Yeah, we always had that. And, you know, in the long-term perspective, that should have continued. And this is where I'm saying that in the long-term strategy, that actually works and keeps doctors rotating in the area.
Last question, it's on a slightly different note. How did you vote in the EU referendum?
I voted to leave Brexit.
Why?
Brexit. Because I feel that we are spending an awful lot of money overseas unnecessarily.
Surely lots of doctors, though, come from the EU and work in Lincolnshire.
Well, I would like to see you know, a negotiation there for that to continue, and I can't see any reason why it wouldn't. We always had a relationship with the EU previously.
But we need more doctors, don't we?
We need to put a lot more money into training for British doctors, but obviously the overseas doctors...
That isn't going to happen. That isn't going to happen immediately, is it? Though it's going to take quite a few years to train up people.
I do feel with Brexit that there's been a lot of scaremongering on both sides, in the Remain camp and the Leave camp, and I do feel that people aren't actually going to jump ship terribly quickly because, you know, there isn't a plan. You know, the shock with Brexit was that government didn't have a plan for Brexit. You know, they're now having to tread water and actually get...
Shouldn't the Leave side have had a plan for Brexit, though?
I don't think they did. I don't think the government did.
But you voted Leave anyway?
Oh no, I voted to leave because I do feel that we have got a lot more to offer, and I would not want to get involved in the politics of the EU.
But you'd have to if you were elected as an MP.
What I mean is I would like to see a negotiation made. If you want to call me a soft Brexiteer, then I'm leaning more towards being a soft Brexiteer.
As opposed to a hard one.
As opposed to a hard one. I do feel we need the links there.
Yeah, and obviously in the meantime, people working in the hospitals as well need to stay as well.
Obviously, yes, and we need to obviously encourage that. And like I say, colleagues of mine that are working in the sector are not feeling compelled to rush home or to leave the country suddenly because there isn't a plan as yet. You know, until they actually see the plan on the table.
How concerned are you that there's not been a plan?
That's what shocked me initially about the Brexit, that there wasn't really a fully fledged plan by the government. They seemed shocked, they seemed to be treading water.
And what happens? You say you sort of want a soft Brexit and negotiation. What happens if the EU thinks, well, we want to punish the UK?
I think we've got a lot more to offer, and I think we...
But what if they're scared that other countries might want to leave the EU as well, so they have to treat us?
I think that's a possibility.
So we could ending up with a worse deal perhaps than we could have done. Unless we, of course, have a really clear plan.
I think this is what the government need to work at, having a clear plan. And without the clear plan on the table, you know, I don't think anybody will be panicking at this stage, as much as the media suggest that we are doing.
Okay. Well, on that note, yeah, thanks a lot for joining us, Sarah. And it's a busy day for us today. We've got 4 more candidates coming in. We've got David Bishop from the Bus Pass Elvis Party. We've got Jim Clark from Labour. We've got Paul Coyne, another independent. We've got Marianne Overton from the Lincolnshire Independents.